Occult Crescent has been more interesting from a lore perspective than I expected. Not just the reason for the structures being there, but also the fact that we even get to glimpse another one of the 12 nations from the 5th Astral Era. So let's pull together some of the things we have learned in the first area of Occult Crescent. Starting with the island itself, it became clear from the beginning that it was far from normal. It is surrounded by some sort of a magical fog that hides its true location and makes it tricky to access. And as we approached it, only we heard a peculiar voice beckoning us towards it. Exploring the island, we found it to be more than little unusual. Within it are recreations of the city-states during the War of Magi, perfectly reproduced by an unknown entity we only know as the Architect, whose goal seems to be to preserve the culture of the 5th Era, while also perhaps hiding the power they gained, though the Architect's intentions are unknown to us at the moment. The 5th Era was a time of war and the rise and fall of nations, ending with the calamity of water. We know for a time there were 12 city-states, each seeming to follow one of the 12 gods, though as the war went on, this number was reduced to 6, and so far we only have substantial lore on 3 of them, and a single dungeon on the 4th. As we explore the first part of Occult Crescent, it is obvious the island is meant as some sort of a museum. There are replications of architecture from 5 cities in total in the area. The familiar are Mach, Amtapor, Nim, and Scalla, but there is also a 5th one we now learn is named Karnak. I recently did a video where we went over the history of the War of Magi and the 3 main cities, so I recommend taking a look at that one if you want to dive a little bit deeper into the history of the area and the fates of Mach, Amtapor, and Nim. But here let's talk about Scalla and Karnak. First of all though, let's note that the island is custom made by the architect. There are the replicas of the cities, with Mach being the most substantial, seeming to show 3 distinct times in Machi history. But also the flora of the area is very unique, with trees that could not possibly have grown in this climate without being imported here and deliberately grown, as pointed out in one of the Occult Crescent records. Several of the opponents on the island are actually specifically made to help protect and care for the island. For example, the Mad Merchant in the Sworn to Soil fate is here to manage the soil, while the Humidifier and his kin handle temperature balance, and the Prying Observer watches over all to keep the balance. This island is in essence a museum, which is great for us as it allows us to see Karnak, or at least little glimpses of it. While historically there is very little known about Karnak, and we can't really identify what type of magic they were working on, we know they were worshippers of Nalthal, with that worship influencing their architecture, with the top of their buildings having circular areas built so people could give offerings and light sacred fires in worship to their god. Their city architecture is also identifiable as one of the 12 by the multiple stairs and the indigo blue accents, as it is known that indigo blue was a favored color by one of the cities. But for now, that is about it what we have. I for one would love to learn more about the city, for example where it was originally located, what type of magic they used, and I am curious if the next zone is gonna show us more cities or go deeper into the lore of the ones we have already. Then there is Scalla, located in the Occult Crescent caverns. The original state was located in Girabania at the bottom of a steep walled ravine. But the city-state was put into ruin seemingly quite a bit before the Great Flood. Today, the city ruins lie at the bottom of Loch Seld, still filled with dangers, but painfully little information about the life and culture that was there. Luckily, here on Occult Crescent, there are few tidbits we can find about Scalla. One is a buyable minion called Scalig Ulosapa. So the Ulosapa bird was originally brought from the South Sea Islands to Scalla, where it became a popular pet within the city. Apparently, during the breeding of the birds within the city, they managed to breed a pure white version of it. And today, this white variety is seen as a breed of their own, known as the Scalig Ulosapa. Another notable thing is the trade Tortoise, who trades us cursed items during their fate. The note within the Occult Records on the Tortoise do give us a little bit of a hint about potential magical focus or Scalla. It says this predilection for curses hints at some connection with the city of Scalla, meaning it is more than likely that Scalla specialized in curses and cursed objects. Though it's not fully confirmed, but that could definitely be something interesting. But let's talk about the architect, Iris, and the archive. As we enter the island, we meet the archive, a Tonberry who has been sleeping there for an unknown amount of time in a sarcophagus. He claims to be very wise and full of knowledge, except all of that knowledge is currently locked off, which is very unfortunate. And while there's a possibility he's actually a Tonberry from Nim, I think there is also a possible chance that he might be another creation of the architect. But that is my personal theory. At the moment, we just know he is a Tonberry, he is friendly, and seemingly trying to help us. Then there is Iris, the ethereal familiar, who is a creation of the architect. We get this confirmed in the note of the architect, but also our first hints about it when we get a note on Iris themselves, as it is noted that the archive senses the same type of ether on her as is on the rest of the island. Iris is the one that told us that the archive's knowledge will only unlock if it is related to something the Warrior of Light experienced firsthand, which led us to further explore the island. And then there is the architect. Archive says they were someone who foresaw the destruction of these societies and wanted to preserve them. And they did preserve them, or at least the structures of different nations. They made not just the buildings, but also the creatures, the islands. They got all the trees here, and they managed to keep this delicate balance to preserve everything. The level of magical skill and ethers to do this is immense, making the architect's origin an interesting question. So let's talk about several different origins. First of all, an Asian is always a possibility. They would be aware of upcoming rejoinings and have the required creation magic to build this whole thing, as we, for example, have seen with the Amarot recreation on the first made by Emmet Selk. But it doesn't have to be an Asian. It could also be a gifted mage blessed with the Echo, as the Echo comes with different versions, so their particular variety may have been the one to glimpse the future. And if we think about our Warrior of Light, they are immensely powerful, far more than a normal mage or warrior at this point. So think of someone like us, but growing up in an era where magic was the main focus of their society. It makes it not an impossible feat. And possible cities they could be from is, if they're Antaporian, well, that city specialized in stonework and golem making. Machian seem to have figured out the Calamity a little bit earlier than the others, based on their escape route and all the buildings they made. And he could also be from Nim, as he does have a ferry. But I think there is also a distinct other possibility. The architect could be from one of the cities we do not know about yet. Perhaps a city that specializes in replication magic, as everything on the island seems to be replications of something they have seen. Not to mention the scripts found at the top of the Tower of Blood are in an unknown language, meaning they either made it up themselves or are from somewhere that are little to no records of. And at the moment we don't know, but it's definitely something to consider. And while I don't think we're going to get any answers till later on in the story, I am curious about your theories about the architect and where we are going. My personal theory is the architect is from an unknown city, specializing in replication magic, and they possess the Echo, allowing them to foresee the Calamity. But that's of course just my theory. There is no real proof for it, as we don't have that much evidence yet. And I think as we go into other parts of Occult Crescent, we might get to see more of the 5th Astral Era cities. But share with me your thoughts and theories, and let's talk about it down in the comments. And while you're there, give the video a commendation by liking and subscribing. And in the end, all I want to say is takk for að horfa, augðu yndislegan dag.